All right, g'day, g'day. Welcome back to Collectivitis podcast, where we dissect the disease that is collectivism. My name's Pietro. This is Floyd. How you doing,
What's going on?
Floyd?
I'm good, mate. Yourself?
I'm very good. We've talked in the past sometimes about like, oh, it's been a bit of a slow news
Mm.
week. I don't exactly know what to talk about. Maybe we talk about stuff that's a bit older. Maybe we chuck a Biden clip or something to just have something to ferment the discussion. But we have the opposite problem today.
Mm.
Today there
Mm.
there is too much to talk about. The whole week I was like, that's got to be on the podcast. Oh
Yeah.
shit, that's got to be on the podcast. We could have led with any of the three things that we want to talk about today, and I'm sure there's other stuff that we could talk about. So I'm so keen to get into it today.
Awesome. Well, let's do it.
Let's
What's
do it.
first?
Let's cut the small talk, which I know that 95% of our viewers are here to listen to us small talk anyway.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah. That's why
that's
so
the
many
draw.
people. That's why when we put out invitations to like go to bars and stuff, all these people just kind of come, and it's not just you and me just drinking beers by ourselves.
And they just stand around the table and listen to us
Yeah.
talk shit.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's how it
Yeah.
works.
Well,
Yeah.
they pay us, so we're that good. Come on.
This is that small talk. They're like, more of this, please.
Yeah.
All right, cut that. Let's get straight into it. So the first thing, which is the most recent of the three that we're going to talk about, is just yesterday there was Patrick Bet David had on his show the libertarian legend Dave Smith to argue with Chris Cuomo about COVID, about everything. It was a 3 hour show. And honestly, anyone who hasn't seen it, it is the quickest 3 hours you'll ever have in your life. I wish it went for longer. By the end, I was thinking, no, don't stop this, please. Let it go on a little bit further. And the context around this, if you don't know, is that Chris Cuomo was the essentially the chief propagandist on CNN throughout all of COVID. He's the brother of Andrew Cuomo, who was the New York governor, and he basically had anyone on his show and talked constantly about pro-lockdown, lambasting anti-vaxxers, anti-maskers, anti-lockdowners. He was the chief propagandist for the regime in the US. And he since then has had a bit of a change of heart in that he now um, he got vaccine injured, he got fired from CNN, and he now talks about things such as the fact that ivermectin was
Mm.
was told people were told that ivermectin was horse dewormer and stuff, and it's not real. He's been prescribed it. He takes it now. He's on it at the moment from his doctor, and so he talks a bit about how the narrative was obfuscated by the powers that be. So he's kind of done a bit of a redemption, but the point that Dave Smith makes, and the reason that he really wanted to argue with him, is that he doesn't apologize for any of the worst of the propaganda that he spread, and he hasn't really turned and made a change and seen any of the truth behind it all. He doesn't challenge the power structures of the media and that sort of stuff. He still broadly agrees with them, broadly agrees with CNN, and doesn't apologize for any of it, of all the harm that he caused and all the lies that he spread. He's still right amongst it. So you watched it. What were your thoughts on the
Yeah.
debate?
I was actually cleaning at the time, so I was in and out of it. But I caught a lot of it. Yeah, I think it was good. Yeah, holding people's feet to the fire. I think this is probably one of the closest chances you're going to get, at least from a libertarian point of view, for someone to grill someone else about COVID. Yeah, it was kind of like RFK in the glory years before that whole war stuff happened.
Before he became an Israeli shill. Um, well, yeah, that's right. And I mean, RFK could have done almost as good a job as Dave Smith,
Mm.
although his voice would have been 100 times more annoying,
Yeah.
and he wouldn't have had the comedic timing of Dave Smith to absolutely destroy this guy. Like, if you
Mm.
watch this thing, it is a mauling from Dave. Um, he there is a clip that I wanted to show of kind of like the most intense moment of it all. But a point that Dave Smith makes the during the debate is that this is the closest that we will get to vindication. This is the closest that we will get to some sort of revenge for the COVID period. Is this guy who was one of the chief ones being embarrassed completely and having nothing to defend himself with? And I remember that was something that throughout the whole period of the lockdowns and the mandates and the rest of it, we knew we were right. Like I knew I was right because I could see, the whole ivermectin thing, especially. Okay, like it's this drug that is not patented, so anyone it can be prescribed to anyone. It has been prescribed 1 billion times to humans prior to this. It's completely no risk. It had won a Nobel Prize. Yeah. And suddenly it was horse dewormer.
I think it was celebrated by the WHO as well. They had like some like big one of those global health organizations had like World Ivermectin Day.
Yeah. I wonder if that's still around.
Yeah.
And he so the lie about it all, like we could see through the lie because a 5-minute Google search tells you that that it's not horse dewormer, that it has been used, and suddenly it was banned, and nobody could prescribe it, and nobody could get it, and
the search results changed. So you'd search ivermectin, and it would be like the first thing would be like, here it'd be like the Victorian Health Authority being like, no, this is bad.
And you'd get your if you had a YouTube channel with a decent following. I don't know that ours would necessarily get flagged, but if you had
we got done for the V word.
Yeah, we get like the COVID alerts now, but you'd get your channel shut down and demonetized, and like Dave even talks about in his podcast, they couldn't talk about it for like 3-4 months, even though it was the biggest thing, because he would lose his livelihood. So he had to kind of flirt around the topic, and now you can talk about it again. So anyway, I just want to show you the clip. The clip centers around Joe Rogan. So a lot of the controversy centered around Joe Rogan at the time, because I don't know if you can remember, this was Joe was prescribed ivermectin by his doctor, and he was the one that was the fury really came down upon to say, he's taking horse dewormer, he's spreading misinformation, he's spreading lies, and in the episode they go on to show a clip. In the debate, they go on to show a clip of all these people, attacking Rogan, and Cuomo half defends himself by saying, "Well, it wasn't me who was attacking him. I was just having these people on. You don't see me attacking him." And then I'm just going to show the clip because this clip is probably one of 3-4 like really, really high highlights of the whole debate, and just shows how it kind of all ran. And I think this is just so entertaining. So enjoy.
No. Okay, yes, you did. Find the clips. Dude, find the clips. You shamed Joe Rogan.
Find the clips.
You said he's taking horse dewormer. You and Don Lemon were chuckling at each other about it.
No,
I'll go find the clips.
First of all, you just saw the clips.
I'm
not chuckling. I'm listening to Don.
But no. The clip I'm talking about wasn't on there, and it's absolutely there. Here, do we have it? Hold on. Let's play the clip.
Injecting drugs for animals and horse.
And people telling them to. Oh, my God. What person? You talk about cancel culture and who to shame. Ivermectin, a dewormer, really?
They are shaming themselves.
That's what it is.
They're shaming themselves.
So you're taking a dewormer right now.
Chris,
you can't apologize for that. You weren't being clear that it was this, and you know that, dude. You're being so dishonest right now, man.
I'm not being
dishonest. Talking about ivermectin, the drug. You were not talking about this version of ivermectin. Come on. Yes, you.
All right, that's it. What a masterclass. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it was good. There was one thing, there was one part actually of the debate concerning Joe Rogan where Dave turned around and he said, hey, this guy's got more people that listen to him than like CNN combined, than you, than like everyone. I thought that was just a really good bring him down a peg moment. But no, it was good holding his feet to the fire and saying, hey, this is what happened. So always good, at least people to reflect on what they've done. God knows, well, probably nothing's going to happen, but still good reminder.
No, I think that's why we need to celebrate this as much as we can. I think this is the closest we get to vindication. I don't think there's no will among the general population who drank the Kool-Aid to want to re-examine this stuff because it's hard and it's annoying, and it's you have to confront the fact that you were lied to and that your body was compromised because of pharmaceutical profits and because of complete lies, and probably people died because of the censoring and the banning of ivermectin early on. Almost certainly people died because of this, and the powers that be, the actual nexuses of power, will not want to re-examine this, and there's not a big enough core group of us that can push the narrative to get more of an apology than this. And he doesn't apologize. And a point that Cuomo makes, is that he refuses to apologize because he never meant to mislead people, even though we see it right there that he completely lies. It would have taken a 5-minute Google search to find out that that was not true. And he says that if you apologize, it's weaponized against you by your detractors, and that's why Trump never apologizes. And he thinks that's a smart move from Trump. So he, who is completely anti-Trump, is taking the Trump way out of not apologizing, and he doesn't apologize. They spend about 10-15 minutes on, will you apologize now? Will you apologize now? Will you apologize now? And he doesn't. He doesn't apologize for any of it. No, so, and something else I found remarkable was his ability to just sit there for 3 hours and be shown lie after lie and exposed again and again on a variety of different topics from Dave, and just have a completely calm demeanor, as if the words that were being said weren't being said, as if the argument that had just been made didn't completely embarrass him. He sat there with a smarmy look and argued everything as if he was winning the debate, as if it was even or something, or as if like every single point that was brought up wasn't a slam dunk home run against him and everything that he stood for. Just completely lying consistently throughout the whole thing, and then lying now in his redemption tour, and no shame, no embarrassment. This is a different breed of propagandist. This is like the peak propagandist that
he's on CNN. Of course, he's the peak propagandist. He's gotten his training from the powers that be. Yeah.
I'm jealous on some level of just the ability to be completely stone-faced when you are being so publicly shamed and mocked. And obviously the studio audience there is very much in favor of Dave Smith, and of Patrick Bet-David in general is a dissenting voice on the whole COVID thing, and broadly like a kind of right libertarian-ish message. So the audience there is obviously very much against Cuomo. Which also begs the question, why is Cuomo doing this? Like, why is he agreeing to be to just be constantly publicly shamed again and again and again? And I think that previously, when he'd been on Patrick Bet-David's show, and he's now like contracted with PBD, which is why this debate kind of came up, and there was a lot of outrage about that. But he hasn't been attacked quite so acutely by Patrick Bet-David as Dave Smith does. Like, he doesn't hone in and like twist the knife on all the really important stuff. But he has, he spends his whole time there defending himself and losing. Like, what's the appeal for him to want to do this? Why is he bothering to get shamed this way again and again? I don't understand that.
Well, there's no such thing as bad publicity. So he gets himself out there, at least. Maybe some people, maybe who knows, maybe people say like, oh, he's stunning and brave because he's come out and he's faced all these disinformation detractors. Who knows? But I mean, at least he gets exposure. So
well, I don't even know, like, how many brownie points does he win from the left by continuing to bring this topic up? Like, he's obviously, he'd have to lose some esteem because he at least questions ivermectin now.
Well, there's one thing, actually, him coming on, I actually thought, well, I've got respect for the guy now, because at least he'd go on and do it. Maybe that's the whole point of it.
Well, yeah, but if that's the whole point of it, like, apologize for something. That's what I mean. Like, is the point that he's coming back and trying to make up for some of it, but like apologize for some part of it? He just comes on to somewhat defend the indefensible and continuously re-bring up this topic that that they don't want brought up. Like that, do you really think they want the next election to be on the handling of COVID? No, they want it to be on, you know, a number of other issues that maybe the leftists are right on.
I see a lot of the people who were against COVID and what was happening for it, they still bring it up too. And it's one of those things I think we just have to get out of our system as well. You know, at this point, I'm kind of over COVID. They say the next one's coming soon. Yeah, it's stop bringing this up unless we're going to get like a proper inquiry into this.
Yeah. And well, and that's what I mean.
For like 20 years. So.
Yeah, we'll get one when we're all dead and buried. Although anyway.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
I'm sure everyone knows what you were about to say.
A certain portion of the population will be dead sooner than the rest of the population. That's what I was gonna get at. But I did stop. You knew. I wonder how many people. Leave a comment below if you knew what I was gonna say before I said it there. And I stopped myself and then I did anyway. So I mean,
I'm very proud that you did that. You know, showing that responsibility and that control. So
that restraint.
Come a long way.
Well, but I said it anyway. So
well, you didn't say specifics of it. Anyway, how about that weather?
We're talking climate change now. Okay, we'll delve into. No, we don't have time for climate change today because, as I said, we're going to move fast. There's a lot of topics to talk about today. Number two. So this would have been a lead story if it weren't for the myriad of other things that have happened recently. But Trump has been found guilty by a jury in New York, which was always going to be very, very much against him if you consider New York is one of the deepest blue states, and certainly New York City is one of the deepest blue, if not the deepest blue city, barring maybe some Californian ones. He's been found guilty of all 34 charges. In fact, I've got a little news clip. Let's play that to sort of give the update on the story, and then
yes.
President Donald Trump is now a convicted felon. He is the first ever former U.S. president to be convicted of a crime. This afternoon, a jury in New York City determined he conducted business fraud in a scheme to illegally influence the 2016 election through a hush money payment to an adult film star. Shortly after the verdict, the former president called the trial rigged and disgraceful. Fox's Connor Hansen reports from New York.
With today's verdict, former President Donald Trump was not only convicted on 34 felony counts, he also made history, becoming the first former U.S. president to be convicted of a crime.
This was a rigged, disgraceful trial.
Minutes after 12 jurors found Donald Trump guilty on all 34 counts, the former president delivering a message to the American people.
It's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution.
Trump, who was indicted in connection with a hush money payment to an adult film star ahead of the 2016 presidential election, now faces a maximum sentence of 4 years in prison.
There were people.
Okay, so that's Fox News as well. So if you consider the sort of spectrum of the US media, I can't remember who this quote comes from, but I've heard the quote that is like, CNN is what you're supposed to think and Fox is what you're allowed to think. So that's as far, dissenting as you can go is listening to Fox. And even Fox is pretty much saying, woohoo, he's convicted. He's a convicted felon.
It should have been DeSantis.
Well, and that's so. I mean, what do you think? What do you think comes from this? Like, what do you think this means?
I don't know. There's lots of people saying lots of different things. Lots of law types out there. Everything's like take everything with a grain of salt when you say all that stuff. I don't think he's going to go to jail per se. If he does, it will be very long. It'll just be so everyone can get the photo op. I'm not sure how this will affect his standout and like his view, because when he got the mugshot, everyone loved that. So is it like, Trump's a baller now, or is it going to be like, well, he's just an evil person because he got convicted of a crime? But it's not like it's it's not like he murdered anyone or stabbed someone or something, but I guess, a crime's a crime in some people's eyes.
Well, I mean, if we look at the crime, I don't think there's anything that, like, the libertarian view of the law would be considering this to be a crime. He paid someone to not disclose the fact that they had like, it's a voluntary exchange of money for an agreed upon thing. If anything, what's her name? Stormy Daniels has broken the contract, has breached the contract. She is the one who's guilty in the eyes of, like, the libertarian view of what the law should be of life, liberty, and property. Of course, this is all completely irrelevant because no one in the world of this lawfare that the Democratic Party and the establishment are using against Trump gives a flying fuck about the libertarian view of the law. We are so far from that it's not even worth arguing. But I mean, he certainly shouldn't be guilty of this, and it's so clearly an example of them weaponizing this justice system to try and stop him somehow. I mean, I've looked at the polls a few times. From what I can tell, Trump, in a fair election, if there is a fair election and the election is allowed to go ahead, and at the current moment, Trump wins in a landslide. He gets more support with every time they put something else against him, and this is no different. I think I saw he'd already raised like something like $50 million in donations within 6 hours of the news coming out. Like, this is for his campaign, which is like it's fuel to the fire of everything that his message is, that they hate me because they hate you. Now, obviously, there's lots of other problems with Trump, and he's not exactly, he's not exactly a solution to it, but he is a symptom. And as far as symptoms go, the symptom is growing. Like, the more they attack him, the more people jump on board and think, oh, right, I can see through the fact that, this is bullshit.
Yeah, and I think it shows a few things. Is number one, that Trump is a threat. It's not something that they think that they could possibly defeat him at the polls. Maybe that's what they say, or their inside information saying that. So it's like, well, we've got to go after him. We've got to, at the very least, smear him in the eyes of, I don't know whether it's they think middle America isn't going to like this, or someone isn't going to like this. But yeah, they've obviously got a real hard on for this guy. If it were me, I don't know. I don't know how politics works. I don't know any of that shit. You just let Trump have his next term. Let it all go. He goes into the sunset, and then you go and take over the world after that. Just let Trump be. Let him fly out, do what he needs to do. Because if you keep doing this, he's just going to get bigger and bigger, and he's going to keep getting remembered. He's going to get remembered more than Biden or a lot of the other Democrat people that are there now. And as I said before, there's no such thing as bad publicity. He just gets more and more. The more they do this to him, the bigger he gets, the bigger his persona gets. Where you at least, I think everyone in at least the Western world probably knows who the man Donald Trump is. Whereas, before it would be, oh, that guy, he had that show. Whereas now it's just he's this huge persona now, love it or hate it.
I think everyone in the world knows who he is. Like, you can go to developing countries and they still know who Donald Trump is. I don't think there's any. Yeah, it certainly feeds his ego. But there's a good point there, and I agree with you. Like, why is it so unacceptable that Donald Trump win this election? He's won before, so I mean, we've seen what happens under a Trump presidency. It's not that different policy-wise from another Republican presidency. Like, he's already committed to supporting the war in Israel. He's already committed to supporting I think he's committed to supporting funding of aspects of Ukraine. He had spoken against it before, but I think he's already in recent weeks he's already committed to like more federal funding towards that stuff. The like the rest of their Senate and their Congress and stuff are still going to be filled with not necessarily either like Republican minorities or about even, but certainly not MAGA majorities. So like he's still
the
contending.
Are still out there.
Yeah, he's still contending.
And they're pretty much Hillary Clinton. So
that's right. A coalition between the neocons and the Democrats is still far greater than the power that Trump will actually wield. We've seen how how hard the CIA and the FBI and stuff can hamper a president who really wields the power. Like the whole Russian collusion thing last time basically meant that he was defending himself for the entire 4 years. Is that the plan? Is it the plan that this entire presidency, assuming that he wins, is spent him defending himself and him trying to stay out of jail and all of that? Like, I think it's not that big a deal if they lose this. He's going to, and as you said, it's 4 years, and then they can spend these 4 years igniting hatred again and win the next one. With if they put anyone even remotely more impressive than Joe Biden, they'll win the next one. The only reason Trump almost won 2020 was because Joe Biden is a corpse. And I mean, I don't think Joe Biden even lives through the next 4 years. So I think I don't think it's not this disaster that they're making out to be. So it's kind of confusing a little bit as to why they feel this need to completely destroy him. But it works for him. Like it suits him.
Yeah.
Is he controlled opposition? I don't. That's the one thing. I don't think he's controlled opposition because it's just so vitriolic, the hatred against him. Like they really are pulling out anything they can find and completely unprecedented stuff to try and stop him.
Yeah, I think if he were, I'm going to say, more heavily controlled opposition, I can't say one way or another. You know, I'm a conspiracy theory guy, so always got to keep that avenue open. But if it was someone like, say, you know, a George W. Bush type, then you kind of have this more subtle kind of dissenting voice that gets drowned out. For some reason, they're propping him up, and he's going to be remembered as, you know, one of the greats of this generation. I mean, at least since I can remember, he was outshadowing Obama for sure. I mean, everyone loved Obama. He was great. And now he's kind of like a footnote compared to Trump, who came after him, who was this wild villain and this person everyone either, you know, loved or hated, this almost like this cowboy.
Yeah, you can't not have an opinion on Trump is the way that he is the circus that has become, you know, synonymous with his name. You can't be indifferent towards Trump. You either love or you hate. And I think, I mean, what I think is this is inciting a civil war. Like this all is leading to, because the side, like the part of America that loves Trump, loves Trump. They're not at the point anymore of being Republicans first. They are Trumpists first, and they feel personally attacked, and they're taking every slight against him as a slight against them. And the side against him sees him as, you know, Hitler, a demon, a monster, completely unacceptable. And if they continue, like they're risking making him into a martyr, and
yeah, for sure,
fueling. I think there's more. I think there's more more of a general divide amongst the two ideologies, if you want to call them that, of Americans at the moment than there was during the actual Civil War. The actual Civil War was a thing that was kind of escalated from a secession that was based on, you know, slavery amongst a number of things, and then the Northern imposition to try and stop them. And it was largely a territorial thing. There wasn't this age of information. It was largely, you know, we're here, they're there. I guess we have to fight them because we're at war. There wasn't the deep divide between one state and the next and one viewpoint and the next, as there is now. Like they hate each other.
Even like neighbor amongst neighbor. And I think in Australia we have a much more subtle thing, whereas I'd say if you lived in like a Labor electorate, you know, you've got balls to put a Liberal corflute out the front of your house, whereas there it's like you've got neighbor with Trump, you've got other neighbor with Democrat, and, you know, you guys are going to be shouting at each other, like, you know, you've got that vitriol of the people in the same community.
Yeah, it's been whipped up into a frenzy. Like you think someone putting up that sign is like, okay, they are now a demon from hell. Like that is how bad they are. I don't have it ready. There's this great video which I just thought of then, which I saw of a guy with a Trump sign in his front yard, and he's electrocuted it, like he's hooked it up to because people kept tearing it down, and he's left a camera up to watch. And as someone comes and tries to take it down, they get shocked and like fall on the ground. That's how that's how violent the disagreement is over there. So yeah, I don't know, maybe civil war. I don't know exactly what that looks like in the modern era, especially when the establishment has all the guns and all the military and all the weaponry. But it's certainly, the country is completely divided, and this is fuel to that fire.
Yeah, well, maybe that's the whole idea as well, is you just gotta, people, want to push that out so that at least there's something, because people love conflict. You bank off conflict. I mean, look at what the media's been doing. They're reporting on this because it gets them ratings. I'm not saying necessarily an armed conflict or anything like that, but you can sell things better when one side is going to agree with you, whether if you say we're for Trump, we're against Trump, or we're kind of for these issues. You look at the idea of wokeness, you turn around and you say I'm woke, a certain person's going to buy. You say I'm not woke, then another certain person's going to buy. So it's this whole idea, conflict gets that extra kind of attention from the public.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, this kind of links to the next thing that we were going to talk about, because Trump also went to the Libertarian Convention, which happened about a week ago now, which is the other main thing that we wanted to talk about. But that Trump frenzy continued there. Like, he spoke at this thing, and it was an opportunity for libertarians to be seen on the main stage of the world. The two of the leading presidential candidates, including the leading by a long shot, Trump, came and spoke to them, and to pander to them. And RFK was the other one who also went. And he was like, it was either extreme cheering or extreme booing from the second he came on. Like, it didn't matter what he said. It's greater than he ever could dream of being. Like, the thing is completely surpassed what he actually is. And now what he represents is something completely different, which I don't even think he really fully understands or appreciates or can wield in any sort of meaningful way. He can't vindicate the people who string every hope onto him, because he doesn't even understand it. He doesn't even know what that would look like. So anyway, the third thing we were going to talk about, this Libertarian Convention in the US. So they had Trump speak, booed violently, which actually ended up being pretty good media for them, because it was on every news channel saying Trump booed by libertarians, even though they didn't even boo for a reason. They just booed from the minute he got on there. But there were certain things he said which deserved to be booed, and then there were also certain things that he said that were good. Like, he promised that if he gets in, he will appoint a libertarian to his cabinet, and he'll free Ross Ulbricht, the guy. Albrecht, the guy from the the guy from is it the Silk Road, the
Silk
website
Road,
who's been in jail for what, like 10 years or something, which is horrific, and they brought that to attention, and he promised to free him. So I mean, there were good things about what he said when he went up there, and there were bad things that he said, and but the whole thing was booed regardless. There was no discernment among the libertarians at the convention. The other major thing that happened at the convention is, so a little bit of background. Are you up to speed with all, like, their internal politics of, like, the Mises Caucus and the rest of them?
Yeah, to an extent, yeah.
Yeah,
so there are a few factions just trying to fight it out for what the dominant voice of the Libertarian Party is going to be.
Yes, and the Mises Caucus is the largest faction, and last year's one, they kind of took over everything. The Mises Caucus so Dave Smith is very much, if not he's certainly one of the figureheads of the Mises Caucus. Tom Woods, Scott Horton, their candidate was Michael Rechtenwald, who I almost managed to get on the show. I was back and forth with his agent a few months ago, but couldn't quite make it work, which would have been great. So he was the Mises Caucus candidate for president, and the Mises Caucus, Angela McArdle is the chair. She got re-elected. They maintained control of most of the party, which is good if you're looking at it from that point of view, which I certainly do. But they lost the big one. they lost the nominee for presidential candidate. Part of it is due to a few things. So part of it is due to Rechtenwald. Look, he's ideologically pure, but I was also finding it difficult to get behind him because he is so dry in the way that he speaks. He is just hard to listen to. And when you think of a presidential candidate, they are supposed to be above all else a messenger for the ideology, for the views. He would have been great if you heard his message, but he's just not charismatic and boring to listen to. And I think a lot of people would have been turned off from just that. So he was hard to get behind.
Now he's never coming on to give an interview to interview.
Yeah, well, it depends how many of our episodes he watches. Anyway, but he had a big stuff up. He smokes weed before going on stage to calm his nerves or something. He does this. He uses it for that purpose, and normally it works completely fine for him. It actually helps him. But he had won a straw poll to be allowed to respond to Trump's speech, and he was given an edible by someone at the convention, and was just outrageously high when he went up to give the retort. And I haven't got the video ready, but I'd encourage anyone to watch it if they can find it. He is incoherent. Like he kind of makes a couple of broad statements and then he says, "That's it. That's all I've got to say." And it was like awful, just a complete farce. And I think, considering how close the final vote was, maybe that pushed it over the line and they didn't manage to get him over. There were other things that went wrong. Clint Russell was the candidate for vice president. He's a great Mises Caucus guy. He won a debate against Vivek Ramaswamy at this convention. So much shit happened. Like, we don't have time to go into all of it. Clint's another one that I hope to get on the show. He has agreed. He agreed to come on after all of this a few months ago.
Nice.
If he could find the time, because he was super busy when I asked him. But he'd be awesome to have on.
Sure.
But he was essentially railroaded as well as the vice presidential candidate, because these two other guys, so Mike Tamart and Chase Oliver, essentially, Mike Tamart had given the Mises Caucus assurances that if they needed his delegates to get over the line, he would give them. And at the last moment, he backstabbed them and elected Chase Oliver with the promise that Chase Oliver would get him the number 2 spot with his delegates. And so essentially neither Rechtenwald nor Clint Russell, the two Mises Caucus guys, were president or vice presidential candidate, which is a huge loss. Now there's, I don't know, what are your thoughts on Chase Oliver? There's a lot of noise around him. He's the Mises Caucus and he don't get along. What are your thoughts on Chase?
Yeah, Chase is that part of libertarianism that a large group of people try and push under the rug and say, like, these people don't really exist. I think he's genuine in what he says, but yeah, he seems to be going after that more centrist, left-wing leaning type of vote. And it's like almost like I'd say, like, if you had Rechtenwald, he'd be taking away from like RFK and Trump, whereas I think he wants to take away more from the Democrats. But I do think at the very least he is genuine. But he's I think he was for some of the COVID stuff, and he has some pretty weird ideas, some more like very, I'd say like very hardcore libertarian in the sense of like, let's not even have like societal norms.
Yeah, and his detractors would describe him as woke, and he certainly has some woke-esque views or turns of phrase, like the fact that he starts everything with as a gay man, like, and anyone who attacks him is he'll turn around and call them a homophobe, which I mean, the whole point, like, libertarianism on its, at step 1 allows, for everyone to have equal rights. So there's the number before it was popular to be pro gay, the Libertarian Party was, but it is like to appeal to that as a first sentence every time is very much like falling into the hands of like the identity politics, collectivist view of politics, which is the purview of the woke left. I'll play a clip. It goes for about 2 minutes. This is Dave Smith on his podcast talking about the aftermath of it all, and then we can have a chat about what that means.
But there really is, there's no getting around that reality. I think that the progress that I had made, the not unsubstantial progress that I had made over the last 4 years of really convincing a lot of right-wing influential people that, hey, there was something to take seriously here in this Libertarian Party. And we had generated a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of interest from people like, you know, in the, whatever you want to call it. I know we still use the word podcast, even though it makes no sense, but in the podcast news on the internet world. And I'm talking about people like that with substantial influence, a lot of them much, much bigger than CNN. Then a lot of them had really started looking at the Libertarian Party and at least saying, oh, okay, this thing that Dave's leading is like a serious force. This is something we should have a little bit of respect for. And in one weekend, those 4 years of work was all completely undone. I mean, it evaporated. And I can't even argue with it. It's like, okay, yeah, I deserve that. I mean, there's between behaving like a bunch of college leftists when Trump was there and the nominee ultimately being like, trans the kid, you're a bigot, make sure to socially distance, you know, guy, open the borders immediately. Yeah, I mean, I can't even really argue with them. I'm like, yeah, okay, this did not turn out the way I had hoped it would. That's just the reality of the situation. So I gotta own up to that. And I'll tell you, I don't know.
All right, that's the gist of it. So it would be, we have to say at this point that the reason the Mises Caucus had a lot of momentum originally was because Dave Smith was going to be the presidential candidate representing the Mises Caucus, not Rechtenwald. And ultimately, Dave Smith decided not to. And I think we've talked about on the show before, we wonder whether he regretted it, considering how much bigger he got over the last 2 years since, or over the last sort of year since making that decision, or 6 months since making the decision.
48 hours.
Yeah, well, and that's the question I have now is, does he regret it now? And he apologizes throughout that whole podcast. He apologizes. He said it's on him because, you know, Rechtenwald is great, but he was never the first choice. He was the only one who was willing to put up his hand. They clearly don't have as deep a pool of talent to pick from as you would like. I know Spike Cohen's name was floated around a little bit, but Spike ultimately said that he was doing too much good work with You Are the Power, and he couldn't step away from that, which is his organization. Dave Smith thought he could do more good with his popularity and going on podcasts and spreading the message his way. But ultimately, those two cutting the corners has led to the presidential candidate who will get all the media attention the way Gary Johnson did and Joe Jorgensen did last time, again being a pretty poor example of libertarianism, especially when compared, not a poor example of libertarianism, but just a poor messenger when compared to Dave Smith. And I think I'm going to speculate here. I think he has been wounded by this. He seemed very upset. Like, I mean, he said 4 years of good that he's done has been undone in one weekend. That's a pretty huge statement to be making. Like, I don't think that's true. I think the good that he's done, that he's doing, is in only slightly undermined by this. But he feels that it's significant enough that I think he will run at the next one. I think he'll put his hand up.
Yeah, I would definitely wouldn't be surprised if he was the one.
Yeah. So that, yeah. And you can see, like, I mean, this is not long after the convention. They're still licking their wounds. They are not they haven't quite taken the whole thing into perspective, and he hadn't even demolished Cuomo at that point. He hadn't even had the chance to do that. So that I'm sure he feels better about himself now.
Yeah.
But it sucks. It's hard to watch. And I mean, I too was excited by the prospect of a Dave Smith presidential run when I first heard that that was an option, and I too was sad when it didn't come true. And I mean, as much as I wouldn't have been over the moon with Rechtenwald, I think seeing now the reaction of these big Mises guys, Clint Russell did a similar breakdown as this, and he was even more kind of spiteful, especially because he was betrayed personally. I think, yeah, I feel worse now about the fact that this guy that is not Mises Caucus is the candidate.
Yeah, fair.
Fair. Well, I mean, any more thoughts? I get that's it. That's the three main big ones that we wanted to get through. I think like there's at this libertarian convention there were a million other things that happened as well. But I mean they're all, I don't know how interesting they'd be to an Australian audience. The cliff notes of it is that the US Libertarian Party is has taken a turn that is not the direction they've been going in the last 2 years at least. And the pre-Mises Caucus Libertarian Party did fail to speak out against lockdowns and against masks and against mandates in the way that, for example, the Australian Libertarian Party spoke out from the beginning against it all. So if that is a return to that direction, I think the hope that perhaps we'd been putting in the Libertarian Party of the US to be an ally or be a bit of a guide for the Australian one, I think maybe we should keep our views inward.
Well, I think two things kind of came to mind when seeing this. Is there's one, people who aren't really exposed to libertarianism, they might be new to libertarianism. It's their kind of shock that no, libertarianism's quite divided and it's quite diverse as a viewpoint. It's not this one type of tunnel vision that might be propagated. You know, it might be the more popular version. But I think it kind of shows not just libertarians, but the entire type of political community. And it was interesting. It was interesting on Twitter, which you can't really take Twitter as a big form of opinion, but how much the right wing, the disdain they had for libertarianism for it. I was just like, whoa, like
for choosing Chase.
Just in general, they were just giving just libertarians crap. I think it was because of the Trump thing. So I think it was more the MAGA types of people. But yeah, it was like, guys, yeah, that's full on. So I think it kind of shows, it really highlights where libertarianism's place in the political landscape is. And for all libertarians out there, you know, do something about that. I think that's the big rallying cry, is that we as libertarians have to kind of make this image of what our viewpoint is more, not solidified, but more taken seriously and more pronounced, so that when people see something like that, they can be like, okay, that doesn't represent libertarianism, that represents a certain view, like with conservatism or even like socialism, where you can say like, all right, well, they're a Trotskyist as opposed to like a, you know, Stalinist, if there are any Stalinists anymore.
Yeah, and I mean that's right. If you're, because our views are so anti-mainstream, there is the first thought that the average person has when hearing about libertarianism and hearing the extent to which we would cut and slice and destroy a lot of the bureaucracy of the state and peel back the state, is they think, well, that's stupid, that's naive, that would never work. You guys are aloof, crazy, sort of activist-y idiots. And there is the point that, like, yes, the influential figures have been fighting and pushing uphill against this to say, no, we are quite intelligent, we're erudite, we believe these ideas are actually really substantial and they would work, and we can show you how they would work, and we're to be taken seriously, and we are a serious group. And the Libertarian Party has sometimes not, the US one has sometimes not shown that. I mean, if you think of like Vermin Supreme and those guys who, Joe Exotic, like these figures who have kind of become memes in the US as libertarians, like that is not what the Libertarian Party should be marketing itself as. And well, certainly the Mises Caucus seems to think that a lot of that work is undone, but that there is that first thought that people have that is, okay, you're stupid. So your first reaction needs to be, okay, no, we're actually very serious, and our ideas are actually powerful and could work and are better than the status quo. So you're always fighting that uphill battle. We almost need to be overly serious.
No, not overly serious. We still need to tell people that we can have fun. I reject overly serious libertarianism.
I guess overly
competent. I think
overly, yeah, competent is probably a better word. I don't necessarily mean serious as in the no smiling, no laughing. Yes, competent is a better word for that. We are extremely competent people. Anyway, we'll see. I mean, it's not like the Libertarian Party was going to win in the US. I don't know what the fallout of this will be. I think that regardless,
it'll be hilarious, whatever it is.
Yeah, the biggest loss was that Dave Smith didn't run in the first place, not necessarily that the Mises Caucus lost this. Anyway, that's it. Any last thoughts on anything we've spoken about today?
No, well, let's just hope that the news cycle keeps really heavy, and I guess we'll see what happens with Trump's sentencing. But yeah, hopefully there's some real bangers coming out.
Yeah, well, that's right. Maybe we should have spread this one out over a few weeks, but no,
because it loses traction. So next week something will come up, and they'll be like, "Why are they talking about this?"
That's true. That's true. All right, so here's to an exciting news cycle. What would you like to hear about? What do you think of the stuff that's been happening? Let us know in the comments. If you don't already, like and subscribe and all the rest of it to us. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Spotify. We're not on Facebook. Don't look for us on Facebook. If we're on Facebook, they're fake.
Don't be on Facebook. What are you, like 50 years old?
The kids aren't on Facebook anymore. It's
cool.
for
Get
old
on
people.
Insta, IG, bro. That's what's up.
Insta run by Meta, the same people, but
you don't know, like Facebook's Facebook. It's like, you don't want to tell like your cousins and your aunties and uncles about libertarianism. You just want to tell like your friends.
Maybe we should be. Maybe that's how we reach the people that we aren't already reaching. The kids are up with liberty. Wow. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. We will catch you next time.
Take it easy, guys.